The violence in Chicago has a lot of attention on it when you have more than 100 shootings in a holiday weekend with 19 plus people fatally shot. Obviously, there's a lot of questions about the response and how officials in the Windy City are handling that. And we shared yesterday some of the comments from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, where he cast blame on decades of disinvestment, even going all the way back to blaming Nixon. He also talked about Republicans, he said, are shielding the gun lobby, trying to keep guns off the streets, he talked about. But all of those things, obviously, are reactions and kind of ways to, look at, I guess, quote, root causes. But in the immediacy of what's happening in Chicago, the question of federal assistance, especially when you see mass shootings in more suburban types of areas, like in Highland Park, where 2 years ago there was a mass shooting, and that ultimately led to state legislators enacting a ban on semi-automatic firearms, using the Highland Park shooting, a mass shooting, as why they needed to take those steps. Now, of course, all of that's being challenged in the courts, with September 16th being a bench trial in the Southern District of Illinois, challenging the gun ban. We'll obviously have more coverage of that here with America's Talking Network and Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. But, some are pointing, saying that's not helping with the violence in Chicago. So what about federal assistance? There's always been questions, should the National Guard be called in? Well, that's not the type of federal assistance that the Chicago officials are calling for. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson earlier this week, talking about the violence in Chicago over the weekend, did say that they are looking for those federal resources similar to what other areas get when there are mass shootings.
And I know our federal partners at the Crime Gun Information Center will continue to work hand in glove with the Chicago Police Department to track crime guns and hold people who are choosing to wreak havoc on my streets accountable. And finally, I want to announce that I have personally taken steps to ensure that our city is getting all of the resources that it needs from the federal government. And prior to this weekend, my administration took the necessary steps to prepare for what has been historically violent weekends.
And the mayor went on to talk about the federal resources that he says that he's requesting.
And last month, I called on our federal partners to respond to the mass shootings in the city of Chicago. And I've called upon them to respond to the mass shootings like we've experienced in Chicago, just like they do in other places in this country. And I'm hopeful that our ongoing discussions will ensure that our state partners, as well as our federal partners, will swiftly come to the support of the city of Chicago. The city cannot afford to wait any longer.
So again, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson talking about those federal resources. Governor J.B. Pritzker was asked about this yesterday at an unrelated event, and he says that it took a letter from the governor to get those resources. At least the reaction from the White House and the federal government took a letter from Governor Pritzker to make that happen.
Yeah, actually, it took a letter from the governor in order to kick that off. So I was asked by the city of Chicago to write the letter for them, and so we did. We sent that to the White House and to the federal government. As we saw with Highland Park, where there was a lot of support that came from the FBI, the ATF, and other federal agencies, that's what the city of Chicago should get. We also need a lot of interdiction on the many guns that are coming over the border into Illinois from states that have very lax gun laws. We need more enforcement from the federal government. We're doing it, by the way, state police, CPD, but more help from the federal government is necessary. And so, yeah, it was the right thing for him to do.
So, obviously, the governor saying it took a letter from the governor, but Mayor Johnson saying he reached out a month ago to get resources in place. Johnson, again, being asked about what those resources are. You heard mentions of Highland Park, for instance, the federal resources that descended upon that city after a mass shooting on an Independence Day parade. And what about Chicago? It seems that there are mass shootings every weekend and dozens of people shot at any one of these instances. Here's the mayor again talking about the types of federal resources he says they are in need of to have the same types of resources that other areas get.
Yeah, sure. I'll offer that one more time. So there are a number of resources. So it's victim support services. Let me just make it even real simple, okay? So remember the mass shooting that happened in Highland Park and all the services that they got? That's what we're asking for. That's all. What other suburban places get around the country when mass shootings happen like that, we're just simply saying that Chicago deserves that as well. And so I put that request in, how many weeks ago? At least a month ago. That's all it is. So if you look at the support services that places get when mass shootings happen, that's what we want in Chicago. Okay?
Obviously, those resources can go a long way, intelligence gathering, victim services and such, but the mayor also discussed, again, some of the blame that he sees should be leveled here.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. So for federal support, I mean, it's everything. It's everything from boots on the ground to public health support, victims of violence support. As I said before, you know, the fact that it's so easy to get guns in the city of Chicago and cities across America, to me, that's the crime. You have an entire political party that is protecting a lobbyist entity to make sure that legal guns can flow through the streets of places like Chicago and Baltimore, Miami, Los Angeles. Like, to me, that is criminal. It should be brought up on charges.
So the mayor, we heard those comments yesterday, along with the comments he said about Richard Nixon and the root causes of crime, he says, is from community disinvestment and such. Clearly, we'll hear more about Chicago, especially as we get closer to the convention in August, and what kinds of resources are going to be used to ensure that, people are able to attend the conference safely. It is America's Talking Network with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Join us each and every weekday morning here. Don't forget also, subscribe to Illinois in Focus anywhere you get podcasts, and you'll get that daily podcast if you're on the road and you can't watch a video. So make that happen. And don't forget, go check out thecentersquare.com, thecentersquare.com, where you can get all the latest headlines you need. And you can sign up for the newsletter and more, thecentersquare.com. All right, we'll have more here with Illinois in Focus Daily each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.